3 weeks had passed since Nara became captain of Soul's Pride. The ship was traveling through the Outer Rim, carrying medical supplies to a mining colony called Haven's Rest. It should have been a simple job, but nothing felt simple to Nara anymore. She sat in the captain's chair on the bridge, staring at the star charts displayed on the main screen. Every decision felt too big, too important. When Han Sol had been captain, he made choices quickly and moved on. Nara found herself thinking about every possible outcome until her head hurt. "Captain," Hyejin called from the communication station. "We are receiving a distress signal." Nara straightened in her chair. "What kind of distress signal?" "It is coming from a merchant convoy about 2 hours away," Hyejin replied. "They say they are under attack by pirates." Nara felt her stomach tighten. This was exactly the kind of situation she had been dreading. As an engineer, she knew how to fix broken things. As a captain, she was supposed to know how to fix broken situations. "How many ships in the convoy?" she asked. 4 cargo vessels and 1 escort ship," Hyejin answered. "The escort ship is badly damaged." Nara looked around the bridge. Dongwu was at the weapons station, waiting for orders. Hyejin was monitoring communications. In the 3 weeks since she became captain, both crew members had been patient with her, but she could see questions in their eyes. Han Sol entered the bridge and took his position at the navigation station. He had kept his promise to serve his crew, never questioning her orders or trying to take command back. But Nara knew he was watching everything, probably seeing mistakes she did not even realize she was making. "What are your orders, Captain?" Dongwu asked quietly. Nara stared at the distress signal information on her screen. Soul's Pride was not a warship. It had basic defensive weapons and shields, but nothing that could fight off a pirate fleet. If she went to help the convoy, she might get her crew killed, but if she did nothing, innocent people would die. "We are just a cargo ship," she said finally. "We cannot fight pirates." "The convoy has families aboard," Hyejin said softly. "Women and children." Nara closed her eyes. She thought about her own people, the Kalari, and how no one had come to help them when the Dominion attacked. She thought about being sold at the auction, and how Han Sol had risked everything to save her. "Set course for the convoy," she ordered. "Maximum speed." "Captain," Dongwu said, "we should have a plan before we arrive." Nara realized he was right, but she had no idea what plan to make. "What do you suggest?" "That depends on what you want to accomplish," Han Sol said from his station. He was not challenging her authority, just asking a question. "I want to save those people," Nara replied. "Then we need to know more about the pirates," Han Sol said. "How many ships? What kind of weapons, what they want?" Nara nodded. "Hyejin, try to contact the convoy directly. Find out everything you can." For the next hour, they gathered information. The pirate fleet had 6 ships, all faster and better armed than Soul's Pride. They were demanding the convoy's cargo and threatening to destroy any ship that tried to run. "We cannot fight 6 pirate ships," Dongwu said bluntly. "Then we do not fight them," Nara replied. She was starting to get an idea. "We outsmart them." When Soul's Pride arrived at the convoy's location, Nara could see the pirates had surrounded the merchant ships. The escort vessel was drifting without power, its hull scarred by weapon fire. "Pirates are hailing us," Hyejin reported. "Put them on screen," Nara ordered. A scarred alien face appeared on the main display. "This is Captain Rax of the Bloodfang Fleet. You have entered our hunting ground. Surrender your cargo or be destroyed." Nara stood up from her chair. "This is Captain Nara of Soul's Pride. We are not part of the convoy. We are here to negotiate." Rax laughed. "There is nothing to negotiate. Give us your cargo." "I have a better offer," Nara said. "Let the convoy go, and I will give you something more valuable than their cargo." "What could you possibly have that we want?" Nara took a deep breath. "Information about Dominion fleet movements in this sector." That got Rax's attention. The Dominion was the pirates' biggest enemy, always hunting them with warships and battle cruisers. "What kind of information?" Rax asked. "The kind that could help you avoid their patrols," Nara replied. "Or attack their supply lines when they are vulnerable." It was a lie. Nara had no information about Dominion fleets, but she was betting that Rax's greed would make him careless. "Prove it," Rax demanded. Nara nodded to Hansol, who began transmitting fake data they had quickly created. It showed patrol routes and supply schedules that looked real but were completely false. "This is just a sample," Nara said. "Let the convoy go, and I will give you the complete files." Rax studied the data for several minutes. Behind him, Nara could see other pirates arguing about what to do. Finally, Rax made his decision. Chapter 2. "Convoy can leave," he said, "but you stay and give us the rest of the information." "Agreed," Nara said. As the merchant ships began to move away, Hyejin whispered, "Captain, what happens when they realize the information is fake?" "We will be long gone by then," Nara replied quietly. But she had made a mistake. She had assumed the pirates would be patient, would wait for the convoy to leave completely before demanding the promised information. Instead, Rax's ship moved closer to Soul's Pride. "Transmit the files now," Rax ordered. Nara felt panic rising in her chest. The convoy was only halfway to safety. If Rax discovered the deception now, he would destroy Soul's Pride and still have time to catch the fleeing merchants. "There is a problem with our communications array," she said, stalling for time. "Give me a few minutes to fix it." "You have 2 minutes," Rax replied. "Then we start shooting." Nara looked around the bridge desperately. Her crew was watching her, waiting for orders she did not know how to give. She had gotten them into this situation with her lie, and now she had no way out. "Captain," Hansol said quietly, "may I make a suggestion?" Nara nodded, grateful for any help. "Transfer auxiliary power to the rear shields and prepare to run," he said. "When I give the signal, jump to hyperspace directly toward the convoy." "That is insane," Dongwu said. "We will collide with their ships." "No," Hansol replied. "We will jump past them and draw the pirates away. The convoy will have time to escape while the pirates chase us." Nara understood the plan, but it was incredibly dangerous. One mistake in the hyperspace calculations, and they would crash into one of the merchant ships. "Do it," she ordered. Hansol began programming the navigation computer. Nara watched the timer count down. 1 minute, 30 seconds. "Time is up," Rax announced. "Transmit the files or die." "Now!" Hansol called out. Soul's Pride leaped into hyperspace, flashing past the surprised convoy and emerging on the other side. The pirates immediately gave chase, leaving the merchant ships behind. "It worked," Hyejin said with relief. But their victory was short-lived. The pirate ships were faster than Soul's Pride, and they were gaining quickly. "They will catch us in 10 minutes, Dongwu reported. Nara slumped in her captain's chair. She had saved the convoy but doomed her own crew. Her first real test as a captain, and she had failed. "Captain," Hansol said, "you made the right choice. Sometimes being a leader means risking everything to protect innocent people. But now we are all going to die," Nara replied. "Maybe," Hansol said. "But we will die knowing we did the right thing. That matters." As the pirate ships closed in, Nara realized something important. She had been so afraid of making mistakes that she had forgotten why leadership mattered. It was not about being perfect. It was about caring enough about other people to make hard choices. She had a lot to learn about being a captain, but at least now she understood what kind of captain she wanted to be. The walk back to Soul's Pride felt longer than usual. Hansol kept the chains loose in his hands, not wanting to pull on them. Nara walked beside him, her steps careful and measured. She had not spoken since they left the auction house, but Hansol could feel her watching him. Other people in the station corridors stared at them as they passed. A human with a Kalari slave was unusual enough to draw attention. Most humans avoided the slave trade entirely. Those who did not usually bought cheaper workers, not expensive engineers. When they reached the docking bay, Han Sol could see his ship waiting for them. Sol's Pride was a mid-size cargo vessel built for long trips between star systems. It was not fancy, but it was reliable. The hull was painted white and blue, the colors of Earth's old Korean flag that Han Sol's grandfather had told him about. "Is that your ship?" Nara asked. Her voice was quiet but clear. "Yes," Han Sol replied. "It has been my home for 10 years. They walked up the loading ramp and into the cargo hold. The familiar smell of metal and engine oil filled Han Sol's nose. This was where he felt most comfortable, surrounded by the tools and supplies of his trade. Dongwu and He-Jin were waiting for them. Dongwu, the gunner, stood with his arms crossed, his face showing no emotion. He-Jin, the ship's medic, looked curious and a little worried. "Captain," Hyojin said, looking at Nara and then at the chains. "What happened down there?" "I made a purchase," Han Sol said simply. Dongwu raised an eyebrow. "An expensive one, from the looks of it." Han Sol nodded. He knew his crew would have questions, but first he needed to deal with the situation at hand. He looked at Nara, who was studying the cargo hold, with the same calculating expression she had worn at the auction. "Follow me," he told her. He led her through the ship's corridors to his private office. It was a small room with a desk, a computer terminal, and shelves filled with star charts and trade records. This was where he planned routes, managed accounts, and made the decisions that kept his crew alive and fed. Han Sol sat down at his desk and activated the computer. Nara stood near the door, still holding her end of the chains. She looked ready, to run or fight, depending on what happened next. "What is your full name?" Han Sol asked. "Nara Keleth of the Engineering Guild," she replied. "Why do you need to know?" Instead of answering, Han Sol began typing on his computer. He pulled up legal documents and ownership records. The computer hummed as it processed information and connected to the Galactic Data Network. "I am transferring ownership of this ship to you," Han Sol said, without looking up from his screen. Nara stared at him. "What did you say?" "I said, I am giving you this ship." Han Sol continued typing. "The Sol's Pride, along with all its cargo, equipment, and trading licenses, everything." "That is impossible," Nara said. "No one gives away a starship." Han Sol finished typing and turned his screen so she could see it. The legal transfer documents were displayed clearly, with her name listed as the new owner. The computer disagrees. "With you," he said. Nara moved closer to look at the screen. Her eyes widened as she read the documents. "This must be some kind of trick. You are setting a trap for me." "No trap," Han Sol said. He reached into his desk drawer and pulled out a small metal pin. It was his captain's insignia, the symbol of his authority on the ship. He held it out to her. "This belongs to you now, too." Nara did not take the pin. Instead, she backed away from the desk. "I do not understand. Why would you do this? What do you want from me?" Han Sol stood up and walked around the desk. He took the chains from her hands and set them on the floor. Then he pulled out a small tool and broke the locks on her wrist restraints. The metal bands fell to the floor with a clatter. "I want nothing from you," he said. "You are free." Nara rubbed her wrists where the chains had been. Red marks showed where the metal had pressed against her skin. "Free to do what?" "I have no money, no ship, no way to get home." "You have a ship," Han Sol pointed at the computer screen. "This one, and you have a crew if they choose to stay with you." "But why?" Nara's voice was getting louder. "This makes no sense. Humans do not give away valuable things for nothing. No species does that." Han Sol sat back down in his chair. My people have learned something that others have not. True strength does not come from controlling people. It comes from helping them become strong themselves. That is foolish philosophy, Nara said. Philosophy does not pay for fuel or food, or repairs. Maybe not, Hansol agreed, but it helps you sleep at night. Nara walked around the small office, looking at the star charts on the walls and the trade records on the shelves. You spent 70,000 credits to buy me. Now you are giving me a ship worth 10 times that amount. Either you are the most generous person in the galaxy, or you are completely insane. Probably both, Hansol said with a small smile, and, "What about you?" Nara asked. "If I own the ship, what happens to you?" "I was hoping you might let me stay on as crew," Hansol said. "I know the trade routes and the customers. I could help you learn how to run a business." Nara stopped walking and stared at him. "You want to work for me? The person who was a slave 5 minutes ago?" "You were never really a slave," Hansol said. "I saw how you looked at those chains. You were already planning how to break free. All I did was speed up the process." Before Nara could respond, there was a knock at the office door. He-Jin's voice came through the speaker. "Captain, we have visitors. 3 security officers from the station want to board the ship." Hansol looked at Nara. "Your first decision as captain. What do you want to do?" Nara's face went pale. "They must be working for the Dominion. They want to take me back." "Not if you do not let them," Hansol said. "This is your ship now. You decide who comes aboard." Nara looked at the computer screen showing the ownership documents, then at the captain's pin still lying on the desk. Slowly, she picked up the pin and held it in her palm. "Tell the security officers that Captain Nara is busy and cannot see them right now," she said into the speaker. Hansol smiled. "Good first order, Captain." "Do not call me that yet," Nara said. "I still do not trust this situation." "That is smart," Hansol replied. "Trust should be earned, not given away." Nara attached the captain's pin to her shirt. It looked strange there, a symbol of authority on someone who had been in chains an hour ago. But as she wore it, her posture changed. She stood straighter, looked more confident. "I need to see the ship's records," she said. "All of them. Financial accounts, crew contracts, cargo manifests, everything." "Of course," Hansol said. "But first, should we not tell Dongwu and He-Jin what is happening? They have been my crew for 3 years. They deserve to know about the change in command." Nara nodded. "Yes. And I want to know if they will stay. A captain is nothing without a good crew." As they left the office together, Hansol felt a strange sense of relief. For years, he had carried the weight of command alone. Now, for the first time, he was just crew again. It felt good to let someone else make the difficult decisions. Behind them, the broken chains lay forgotten on the office floor. Nara was no longer a slave, and Hansol was no longer her owner. What they were now was something new, something that the galaxy had not seen before. They were partners in an experiment that would change both their lives forever. The warning lights of Nexus Station flashed red and yellow as Captain Hansol guided his cargo ship through the docking bay. Soul's Pride was not the biggest ship in the station, but it was one of the cleanest. Hansol took pride in keeping his vessel in good condition, even if the paint was old and the hull had seen better days. Nexus Station was a place where honest traders mixed with smugglers and pirates. It sat at the edge of 3 different star systems, making it perfect for people who wanted to avoid government attention. Hansol did not like coming here, but sometimes it was the only place to find certain supplies or information. He walked through the crowded corridors of the station. Aliens of dozens of species pushed past each other. The air smelled of exotic foods and engine fuel. Neon signs in 20 different languages advertised everything from weapon upgrades to medical services. Most of it was legal, But Han Sol knew that the real business happened in the lower levels. "Captain!" called out Dongwu, his gunner. The quiet man rarely spoke, but when he did, people listened. "There are rumors about something happening in Section C." Han Sol stopped walking. Section C was in the lower levels. Nothing good ever happened there. "What kind of rumors?" "The kind we usually try to avoid," Dongwu replied. But Han Sol was curious. In his 10 years as a trader, he had learned that information was often more valuable than cargo. He decided to take a look, even though every instinct told him to return to his ship. The lower levels of Nexus Station were darker and quieter than the main corridors. The walls were older here, with patches of rust and exposed wiring. Han Sol followed the sound of voices until he reached a large room filled with aliens of all kinds. What he saw made his stomach turn. It was an auction, but they were not selling cargo or ships. They were selling people. On the raised platform, at the center of the room, a tall alien with gray skin and too many arms was calling out prices. Behind him stood a line of beings in chains. Some looked human, others were clearly alien, but all of them had the same look in their eyes, fear mixed with hopelessness. Han Sol had heard about slave markets, but he had never seen one. His home planet of Earth had banned slavery centuries ago, and most human colonies followed the same laws. But out here, on the edge of civilized space, different rules applied. The auctioneer pointed to a young male who looked almost human except for his blue-tinted skin. "This one is strong, good for mining work or heavy construction. Do I hear 5,000 credits?" Various aliens in the crowd raised their hands or made clicking sounds to bid. Han Sol watched in disgust as the price climbed higher and higher. The young male kept his head down, but Han Sol could see his hands shaking. Then the auctioneer brought forward a different captive, and Han Sol felt his breath catch. She was clearly not human, but she was close enough that Han Sol could read the intelligence in her dark eyes. Her skin was pale green and her hair was white as snow. But what struck Han Sol most was that unlike the others, she was not looking down in defeat. She was studying the crowd, watching the bidders, calculating something. "This is Nara of the Kalari people," the auctioneer announced. "As you all know, the Kalari have natural abilities with technology. She can fix anything with engines, computers, or energy systems. Her previous owner used her to maintain an entire fleet of ships." Han Sol noticed how the crowd became more interested. Several wealthy-looking aliens leaned forward in their seats. "The bidding starts at 10,000 credits," the auctioneer continued. Immediately, hands shot up around the room. The price jumped quickly to 15,000, then 20,000. Han Sol recognized some of the bidders. There was Vex, a crime boss who controlled 3-star systems. Next to him sat a representative from the Dominion Empire, the government that had conquered dozens of worlds in the past century. But Han Sol kept watching Nara. While the bidding went on around her, she was looking at the chains that held her. Not with despair, but like an engineer studying a problem. She was planning something. The price reached 30,000 credits, then 40,000. Han Sol realized that amount of money could buy a small starship. For one person, it was an incredible sum. The Dominion representative raised his hand. 50,000 credits. The room went quiet. 50,000 was more than most traders made in a year. Several bidders shook their heads and sat back in their chairs. The crime boss, Vex, looked angry but did not counter the bid. 50,000. "Going once," called the auctioneer. Han Sol looked at Nara again. She had stopped studying her chains and was now looking directly at the Dominion representative. The expression on her face was not fear. It was pure hatred. Han Sol knew about the Dominion Empire. They had conquered her people, the Kalari, 5 years ago. If she went to them, she would spend the rest of her life maintaining their war machines. She would help them conquer other worlds, other peoples. 50,000 going twice. Something inside Han Sol snapped. Before he could think about what he was doing, He stood up and raised his hand. 60,000 credits. Every head in the room turned to look at him. The auctioneer seemed surprised. Several aliens started whispering to each other, wondering who this human was and where he had gotten so much money. The Dominion representative turned around and stared at Han Solo with cold, reptilian eyes. 65,000. Han Solo felt, his heart pounding. 65,000 credits was almost everything he had saved over 10 years of trading. His ship, his crew, his future, it all depended on the money in his accounts. But he looked at Nara again and saw something that decided it for him. She was looking at him now, and for the first time since he had entered the room, he saw hope in her eyes. 70,000! Han Solo called out. The room erupted in surprised voices. The Dominion representative looked furious, but he did not bid again. 70,000 was apparently his limit. 70,000 going once, going twice. The auctioneer paused, looking around the room for any other bids. Sold to the human. Han Solo walked to the front of the room on unsteady legs. He had just spent his life savings on a person. He was not even sure why he had done it. All he knew was that he could not let the Dominion Empire buy her. As he handed over his credit chip to complete the payment, Nara was brought to him. The Aegea chains around her wrists were transferred to his hands, making him officially her owner. She looked up at him with those intelligent dark eyes and spoke in accented but clear human language. "What are you planning to do with me?" Han Solo looked at the chains in his hands, then at her face, then at all the aliens watching them. He had no idea what he was going to do. He only knew that buying her was the right thing, even if it meant he was now nearly broke. "I guess we will figure that out together," he said quietly. As they left the auction house, Han Solo could feel dozens of eyes following them. Word would spread quickly that a human had outbid the Dominion Empire for a Kalari engineer. Some would call him crazy. Others would wonder what he was planning. But as they walked through the dark corridors toward the docking bay, Han Solo realized he felt better than he had in years. For the first time in a long time, he had done something that mattered. Behind him, Nara walked silently, but he could sense her watching him, trying to figure out what kind of master she had just acquired. She was about to find out that humans were very different from other species in the galaxy. The pirate ships were only minutes away from catching Sol's Pride when something unexpected happened. New ships appeared on the scanner, emerging from hyperspace all around them. "Captain," He-Jin called out, her voice filled with surprise, "we have 12 ships dropping out of hyperspace. They are not pirates." Nara looked at the scanner display. The new ships were a mix of different types. Some were cargo vessels like Sol's Pride. Others were passenger transports. A few looked like modified warships. "They are hailing us," He-Jin continued. "Put them through," Nara ordered. A familiar face appeared on the screen. It was Captain Jin Woo of the merchant vessel Morning Star. Nara had met him 3 weeks ago, when Han Solo had helped repair his engines after a breakdown. "Captain Nara," Jin Woo said with a smile. "We heard you might need some help." "How did you know where to find us?" Nara asked. "News travels fast in the Outer Rim," Jin Woo replied. "A human captain who gives away his ship to save a slave. A Kalari engineer who risks her life to protect innocent people. Stories like that make people want to help." On the scanner, Nara could see the pirate ships slowing down. 6 pirate vessels. Against 1 cargo ship was easy odds. 6 pirates against 13 defenders was a very different fight. "This is Captain Rax," came an angry voice over the communications. "This does not concern you. Leave now or face the consequences." "Actually," said another voice, "this does concern us." A new ship appeared on the scanner. It was larger than the others, clearly a military vessel. Nara recognized the design. It was a Kalari battleship, one of the few that had escaped when the Dominion conquered her homeworld. "This is Commander Teho of the Free Kalari Fleet," the voice continued. Soul's Pride is under our protection. Nara stared at the screen in amazement. She had heard rumors that some Kalari ships had escaped the conquest, but she had never expected to see one. "We have a message for the pirates," Commander Tejo said. "Leave this system immediately, or we will consider you enemies of the Kalari people." The pirate ships hesitated for several long minutes. Finally, Captain Rax's voice came over the radio again. "This is not over," he said. "We will remember this." The pirate fleet jumped to hyperspace, disappearing from the scanner. The merchant convoy was safe and Soul's Pride was no longer in danger. "Thank you," Nara said to the ships that had come to help her. "I do not understand why you risked yourselves for us." "Because Han Sol helped my ship when we were stranded," Captain Jinwoo replied. "Because you saved that convoy when you could have run away. Good people deserve help." Over the next few hours, Nara talked with each of the ship captains who had come to her aid. Their stories were all similar. Han Sol had helped them at some point in the past. He had transported refugees for free, shared food with hungry crews, or used his engineering skills to fix broken ships. "Your former captain has friends across the galaxy," Commander Tejo told her during a private conversation. "But more than that, he has shown people a different way of doing business. A way based on helping others instead of only helping yourself." "And now they are helping me because of what he did?" Nara asked. "They are helping you because of what you did," Tejo corrected. "Han Sol planted seeds of kindness across the galaxy, but you are the one who chose to water them by risking your life for strangers." After the other ships left, Soul's Pride continued its journey to Haven's Rest mining colony. But word of what had happened spread quickly through the communication networks. The story grew with each telling. A human who gave his ship to a former slave, a Kalari captain who fought pirates to save innocent people, ships that came from across the galaxy to help friends. When they reached Haven's Rest, the colony administrator was waiting for them at the landing pad. "Captain Nara," he said, "we heard about what happened with the pirates. The whole colony is talking about it." "We were just doing our job," Nara replied. "No," the administrator said. "You were doing much more than that. You were showing people, that there is still honor in the galaxy." As they unloaded the medical supplies, Nara noticed something strange. Other ships were arriving at the colony. Traders mostly, but also passenger vessels and even a few military escorts. "What is happening here?" she asked the administrator. "Word is spreading," he explained. "People want to meet the crew of Soul's Pride. Some want to hire you for jobs. Others just want to shake your hand." Over the next week, Soul's Pride received more job offers than Nara had ever seen. Colonies wanted to hire them to transport supplies. Refugee groups asked them to help move families to safer worlds. Even some government officials contacted them about carrying diplomatic messages, but the most surprising message came from an unexpected source. "Captain Nara," Hyejin called from the communications station, "we are receiving a transmission from the Dominion Empire." Nara felt her blood turn cold. "What do they want?" "It is Admiral Kresh himself," Hyejin replied. "He wants to speak with you directly." The face that appeared on the screen was cold and reptilian, with yellow eyes that seemed to look right through her. Admiral Kresh was the military leader who had conquered her homeworld 5 years ago. "Captain Nara," Kresh said in a voice like grinding metal, "you have become quite famous in recent weeks." "I am just a trader," Nara replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "No," Kresh said. "You are much more dangerous than that. You are giving people ideas about freedom, about helping others, about standing up to those who are stronger." "Is that illegal now?" Nara asked. "It is when it threatens the natural order of the galaxy," Kresh replied. "The strong rule the weak. That is how civilization works. But you and your human friend are spreading a different message." "What do you want from me?" Nara demanded. "I want you to understand something," Kresh said. The Dominion Empire has tolerated your activities so far because you seemed harmless, but that tolerance has limits. The screen went black, ending the transmission. Han Sol, who had been listening from his station, walked over to Nara's chair. He is afraid, Han Sol said quietly. Afraid of what? Nara asked. We are just one ship. We are one ship that has shown the galaxy something new, Han Sol replied. The idea that people can choose to help each other instead of fighting over scraps. That is the most dangerous idea in the universe to someone like Kresh. Nara looked at the star charts on her screen. Somewhere out there, Admiral Kresh was planning something. The Dominion Empire had not conquered half the galaxy by ignoring threats to their power. What do we do now? She asked. We keep flying, Han Sol said. We keep helping people, and we prove that our way is stronger than theirs. Even if it gets us killed, Han Sol smiled, especially then. Because if we die doing the right thing, others will remember why we died, and they will keep the idea alive. Nara nodded slowly. She was beginning to understand that being captain of Sol's Pride meant more than just running a trading ship. She was part of something bigger now, something that could change the galaxy. But first, she had to survive whatever Admiral Kresh was planning. 6 months had passed since Admiral Kresh's warning, and the galaxy was changing in ways no one had expected. Sol's Pride had become the flagship of something new, something that people were calling the Free Stars Collective. Nara stood on the bridge of her ship, looking at the fleet that had gathered around them. 57 vessels of all sizes and types floated in space near the asteroid mining station of Liberty Point. Some were cargo ships like Sol's Pride, others were passenger transports carrying families who had escaped slavery or oppression. A few were warships crewed by former military officers who had grown tired of serving corrupt governments. Captain, Hyejin called from her station, the convoy from the Tau sector has arrived. That brings our total to 62 ships. Any word from the colony ships? Nara asked. 3 more worlds have voted to join the collective, Dongwu reported. That makes 18 planets and 47 space stations under our protection. Nara shook her head in amazement. What had started as one human's act of kindness had grown into a movement that spanned multiple star systems. The Free Stars Collective was not a government in the traditional sense. It had no armies, no taxes, no rulers. Instead, it was a network of people who had agreed to help each other. Han Sol entered the bridge, carrying a data pad filled with reports. In the past 6 months, he had become Nara's chief advisor and the collective's main negotiator. His reputation for honesty made him trusted by people who would never normally work together. The latest reports are encouraging, he said, handing Nara the data pad. Trade between collective worlds has increased by 300%. Crime rates are down on every planet that has joined us. And we have processed over 10,000 refugees from Dominion space. What about military threats? Nara asked. Han Sol's expression became more serious. The Dominion has been testing our defenses. Nothing major yet, just border raids and patrol ships entering our territory. But Admiral Kresh is building up his forces. Nara looked at the fleet surrounding them. Most of the ships were civilian, vessels with minimal weapons. The few military ships they had were older models, often donated by sympathetic officers from various planetary defense forces. Can we fight the Dominion if they attack? She asked. In a traditional battle, no, Han Sol replied honestly, but we do not have to fight them the traditional way. What do you mean? The Dominion's strength comes from fear and control, Han Sol explained. They rule by making people believe they have no choice but to obey. But every day we exist, every world that joins us, every refugee we save, we prove that there is another choice. Philosophy will not stop battle cruisers, Dongwu said from his station. Maybe not, Han Sol agreed. But it can stop the people who crew those battle cruisers from wanting to fight. As if summoned by their conversation, an alarm began sounding on the bridge. Hyejin quickly checked her instruments, multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace. she reported. Dominion signatures. It looks like a full battle fleet. On the main screen, Nara could see the familiar gray hulls of Dominion warships. There were at least 20 of them, including 2 massive battlecruisers. Leading them was Admiral Kresh's flagship, the Iron Fist. They are hailing us, Hyajin said. Put them through, Nara ordered. Admiral Kresh's reptilian face appeared on the screen. His yellow eyes looked even colder than Nara remembered. Captain Nara, he said, your little rebellion ends today. Surrender now, and I will allow your ships to leave peacefully. This is not a rebellion, Nara replied. We are free traders, exercising our right to travel and do business. You are criminals harboring fugitives from Dominion justice, Kresh shot back. And you are spreading dangerous ideas that threaten galactic stability. Ideas like freedom and cooperation, Nara asked. How terrible. Mock me if you wish, Kresh said. But you cannot fight the entire Dominion fleet. Surrender or be destroyed. We choose option 3, said a new voice. On the scanner, more ships were appearing. But these were not collective vessels. They were Dominion ships, emerging from hyperspace and moving to positions between Kresh's fleet and the collective. What is the meaning of this? Kresh demanded. This is Captain Minho of the Dominion cruiser Righteous Fury, came the reply. Admiral, I am relieving you of command under Emergency Protocol 7. Nara stared at the screen in shock. She recognized Captain Minho's name. He was one of the Dominion's most decorated officers, known for his loyalty to the Empire. You cannot relieve me, Kresh snarled. I have direct orders from the High Command. Your orders were to maintain peace and stability, Minho replied. Instead, you are about to start a war that will destroy everything we have built. Other Dominion ships were moving to join Captain Minho. Within minutes, Kresh's fleet was outnumbered by ships from his own navy. Why are you doing this? Kresh demanded. Because we have families on collective worlds now, Minho replied. Because we have seen what happens when people are allowed to choose cooperation over conflict. Because some of us still remember what we swore to protect. The standoff lasted for hours. More Dominion ships arrived, and most of them joined Captain Minho's group. A few remained loyal to Admiral Kresh, but they were clearly outnumbered. Finally, Kresh made his choice. This is not over, he said. The High Command will hear about this treachery. His remaining ships jumped to hyperspace, leaving the rebel Dominion fleet floating in space near the collective. Captain Nara, Minho said, I need to speak with you and Han Sol. My officers and I have a proposition. An hour later, Nara and Han Sol were aboard Captain Minho's ship, sitting in his private conference room. Minho was a middle-aged man with graying hair and tired eyes. He looked like someone who had seen too many battles. I want to join the collective, he said without preamble, along with my ship and crew. Why? Nara asked. Because I have spent 20 years fighting for the Dominion, Minho replied. I have conquered worlds, enslaved populations, and destroyed anyone who opposed us. I told myself it was for peace and order. He paused, looking out the window at the collective fleet. But then I heard about you, about a human who gave away his ship to free a slave, about that slave becoming a leader who risks everything to help others, about people from different worlds working together instead of fighting. And that changed. Your mind? Han Sol asked. It showed me what I could have been fighting for all these years, Minho said. Not conquest, but cooperation. Not fear, but hope. The Dominion will consider you traitors, Nara warned. Let them, Minho replied. Better to be a traitor to evil than a loyal servant of it. Over the next few weeks, more Dominion ships defected to the collective. Entire planetary defense forces declared independence and asked to join. The movement that had started with one human's act of kindness was becoming a revolution, but Nara knew this was only the beginning. Admiral Kresh would return with ships and officers who remained loyal to the old ways. The final confrontation was coming, and when it arrived, the collective would face its greatest test. The question was not whether they could win a war. The question was whether they could prove that their way of life was worth fighting for. 5 years had passed since Han Solo first gave his ship to Nara. The galaxy was a very different place now. Captain Nara stood on the observation deck of New Hope, the flagship of the Free Stars collective fleet. Through the transparent aluminum windows, she could see hundreds of ships moving through space around the orbital city of Haven. Some were cargo vessels bringing supplies to the growing colonies. Others were passenger ships carrying families to new homes. A few were exploration vessels heading out to map unknown regions of space. All of them flew the blue and white flag of the collective, the same colors that had once decorated Sol's pride. "The morning reports, Admiral," said Lieutenant Yujin, handing Nara a datapad. Nara still felt strange being called Admiral, even after 3 years in the position. She had never wanted to be a military leader, but the collective needed someone to coordinate their defense against the remaining Dominion forces. "How many ships in the fleet now?" she asked, reading through the reports. 2,347 vessels, Yujin replied, including 412 warships staffed by former Dominion officers. "And civilian membership?" 856 worlds, 1,200 space stations, and over 4 billion people, Yujin said with pride. Nara shook her head in amazement. What had started as a small group of independent traders had become one of the largest governments in the galaxy, but it was unlike any government that had ever existed before. The collective had no emperor or president. Instead, each world and station governed itself, agreeing only to help others when help was needed. There were no taxes, only voluntary contributions. There was no central military, only local defense forces that worked together when threatened. "Any word from the peace negotiations?" Nara asked. "Vice Admiral Han Solo reports that 3 more Dominion sectors have agreed to independence," Yujin replied. "That leaves only the core world still under Admiral Kresh's control." Han Solo had become the collective's chief diplomat, traveling throughout the galaxy to negotiate with governments and resolve conflicts. His reputation for honesty made him trusted by both allies and enemies. "Admiral," came Hyejin's voice over the communication system, "we have visitors arriving, the delegation from the Galactic Council." Nara straightened her uniform and walked to the main conference room. The Galactic Council was the oldest government in known space, representing over 1,000 different species. For 5 years, they had refused to recognize the collective as a legitimate government. Today, that was finally going to change. Thaikit. Delegation included representatives from dozens of different worlds. Leading them was Councillor Zenki of the Altarian Republic, a tall being with blue skin and silver hair. "Admiral Nara," Councillor Zenki said as she entered the room. "The Galactic Council has voted to formally recognize the Free Stars Collective as a sovereign government." "Thank you," Nara replied. "But I have to ask why now? You have ignored us for 5 years." "Because we finally understand what you have accomplished," Zenki said. "For thousands of years, galactic civilization has been built on the principle that the strong rule the weak. Empires conquer smaller worlds. Large corporations exploit weaker economies. Military might determines political power. And now?" Nara asked. "Now we see an alternative," Zenki replied. "A government where membership is voluntary, where strength comes from cooperation instead of domination, where people choose their leaders instead of having leaders imposed on them." "It has not been easy," Nara admitted. "There have been conflicts, disagreements, failures." "Of course," Zenki said. "But you have proven that a different way is possible. Your economy is stronger than the Dominion's. Your people are happier. Your technology is advancing faster. And most importantly, you have done it all without conquering a single world." After the delegation left, Nara walked to her private office. Han Sol was waiting for her there, having returned from his latest diplomatic mission. "How did the negotiations go?" she asked. "Better than expected," Han Sol replied. "The Dominion Core worlds are facing massive rebellions. People are demanding the same freedoms they see in collective space. Admiral Kresh has been removed from power by his own officers." "And the new Dominion leadership?" "They want to negotiate a peace treaty," Han Sol said. "They are willing to grant independence to any world that wants to join the collective." Nara sat down at her desk, feeling suddenly tired. "Do you think it will last? This peace we have built?" "Nothing lasts forever," Han Sol said honestly. "But we have given people something they never had before, a choice, the knowledge that they do not have to accept oppression or exploitation. That is a powerful thing. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if you had not bought me at that auction," Nara said. "Someone else would have done something similar," Han Sol replied. "Maybe not exactly the same, but something. Good ideas have a way of spreading when the time is right." "You really believe that?" "I have to," Han Sol said. "Otherwise all of this was just luck, and luck does not last." A chime from Nara's computer interrupted their conversation. It was a message from one of the collective's exploration ships, reporting the discovery of a new star system with several habitable planets. "More worlds to explore," Nara said, reading the report. "More people to meet and hopefully help." "The galaxy keeps getting bigger," Han Sol agreed. "And more complicated," Nara added. "Sometimes I miss the simple days when we just had one ship and 3 crew members." "Do you regret accepting command?" Han Sol asked. Nara thought about the question seriously. Leading the collective was harder than anything she had ever done. The decisions she made affected billions of people. The responsibility was overwhelming sometimes. But then she thought about the refugee families who now had safe homes, the former slaves who had become ship captains and colony leaders, the young people from dozens of different species who were working together on projects their grandparents could never have imagined. "No," she said finally, "I do not regret it, but I could not have done it without you." "You could have," Han Sol said. "You just needed someone to show you that it was possible." As the day ended, Nara stood again at the observation window, watching the traffic around Haven Orbital City. Ships from hundreds of different worlds moved peacefully through space, carrying cargo and passengers and dreams. In the distance, she could see a small cargo vessel with familiar blue and white markings. It was Sol's Pride, now commanded by a young Kalari engineer named Bo-Ram, who had once been a slave on a mining world. Nara had given her the ship 3 months ago, along with the same advice Han Sol had once given her. True strength comes from helping others become strong. The cycle was continuing. Somewhere in the galaxy, Bo-Ram would make choices that would help other people. Those people would help others in turn. The idea would keep spreading, one person at a time, one act of kindness at a time. Nara smiled as she watched Sol's Pride disappear into hyperspace, carrying its cargo and its message to distant worlds. The little ship that had started everything was still flying, still spreading hope across the galaxy, and as long as there were people willing to choose cooperation over conquest, kindness over cruelty, freedom over oppression, the free stars, collective would continue to grow. The human way of thinking had become the galactic way of thinking, and the galaxy was better for it.